Welcome to episode 69 of the AskShell.com podcast, answering emails submitted on AskShell.com from homeowners needing answers. If you have a question for Shell or myself, Morgan, you too can get an answer. It is free for you. Just go to AskShell.com, click on register, and follow the instructions. We do not share email addresses, and Shell answers all questions submitted to him, whether they make the podcast or not. Good day, Shell, and I guess we have to say Happy Thanksgiving.
By golly, yes, gobble, gobble, gobble. It's time for those turkeys, or, I've been talking to a lot of people, they're having ham. And also bear and beef. So things are changing. It's thank you time, folks, and Thanksgiving is a great time for families to get together and thank the good man above that he is taking care of us. And here on the, AskShell.com show, we take care of you with your homeowner questions.
Yes, and this is the Canadian Thanksgiving to all our American listeners and viewers.
Absolutely.
And I'm a turkey man myself, Shell.
Oh, I gotta
If I get the ham, I get upset.
Yeah, and I gotta have that drumstick.
The drumstick.
That great big drumstick. I mean, a huge thing. But no, it is Thanksgiving weekend, folks, and we want to say a very happy and have a grateful Thanksgiving with your family. And Morgan and I, we're going to do the podcast. It's number 69.
Yes.
And 69 means 70, so we have I guess a milestone next week being 70. But folks, your questions, my answers, it's all about doing that home improvement project around your home, just like the old Home Discovery Show. Remember that on the radio? Well, I've talked to so many people, and why not start out by the question on the emails and my answers. And then today, Tony Giventu, he's out on the road. He's up in the North Country, so therefore, but he did send the answers to the question, and we'll even read that for you.
Yes, we do have a question that we have from Tony and Tony's answer that you are going to respond to. But this is episode 69, and we've decided to go video for this podcast. So people are gonna be able to see how we make the podcast and how we go about doing it. So
a lot of people, they when they had the radio show, and we actually had the caller, and that's going to happen. That is going to happen, folks, on this program. Because I had a great meeting yesterday on Vancouver Island with a very good friend of mine. And I'll tell you, when I was talking with Michael, and Michael used to be the director of the Home Check TV program. And he said, Shell, you can do, and his name is Wolishing. And that's Michael Wolishing. And but in any event, when it comes right down to it, he says, Shell, show them that you are there doing that job that you used to do, and the video is everything today. So we see your smiling face, Morgan, and my smiling face.
Videos are worth 1,000 words.
You got that right. Let's get at her, pitter patter.
Okay, the emails I'm going to ask you about today, Shell. Is a moisture barrier needed for a certain application? How to get rid of drain flies in your basement? A laminate floor cleaner and polisher? More on that flagstone question from last week. We had a response from the homeowner, so we'll get more into that. A question about ceramic heater and a rim joist insulation question.
You betcha.
So our first email. I am going to install a tongue and groove pine ceiling in a 3-season cottage in Ontario. Is a moisture barrier required? I have heard both yes and no to this question. What is your professional opinion? Thank you, Don.
Well, Don, that is a very good question, and the answer to it is really how do you do the job and do it good, better, best, the best way? As you know, that's what I'm all about, doing it the best way. Now, when you're putting tongue and groove on a ceiling, is it a flat ceiling? Is it a vaulted ceiling? Or is it a scissor truss ceiling? I have to know that. So what I'm going to have to do is answer, in all due respect, the question as a more generic overall type of ceiling application. And when you're using poly vapor barriers, first of all, vapor barriers and insulation go together on a ceiling. Why do I say that? The insulation is the heat conserver and insulator. The poly is the moisture barrier that stops any moisture from getting up in and around the insulation and possibly condensing on the underside of roof sheeting, etc. But in this particular case, a ceiling underneath pine, I would highly suggest that you consider putting a the poly vapor barrier 6 mil and tuck tape, and that tuck tape is the red tape, insulation tape on the seams. So 6 mil poly vapor barrier, tuck tape, that's the red insulation tape, and that's all around your light fixtures, your fans, like your ceiling fans, all that, anything that you've got as an exhaust, anything that goes through that ceiling to the roof line, be it a plumbing vent or whatever, you definitely want to have that sealed off. Now, once you've got that done, this is the one that may blow you away. I want you to use the drywall. That's 1/2 inch gyprock, as a lot of people will make reference to it, even though gyprock is a brand name. But when you're using drywall as a sheet over top of your polyvapor, that's giving you a real good seal. Now, that's not only a seal, but also it gives you fire protection. So therefore, I would go 5/8, and that would be fire guard drywall, and that would go over top of your polyvapor barrier, and your insulation would be between the joists or between the truss or between the rafters, depending on your application. Okay, but with the drywall, now you take your tongue and groove, and the tongue and groove is glued to the drywall. Now here's one little trick here. A lot of people have had this experience, and the experience is when you use adhesive on drywall, they, at the manufacturing plant, when they're producing drywall, they actually put a puff of, it's just like a powder, and that powder is to keep the sheets together, and when you pull them apart, they don't pull the paper or roll the paper. So it's like a talcum, and that talcum powder allows the sheets to be pulled off between one another. But when you put that up on a ceiling, you want to wipe that down with a wet cloth before you put anything over it. And why you do that is just to take the talcum off. That gives you a good surface to glue to, and that's when you're gluing your tongue and groove. Now, you can use very short pins, keeping in mind you're going through the tongue and groove and into your 5/8 drywall. Now, all you're using the pins for, and I'm talking about electric pinner or an air pinner, and that you only use, say, 3/4 inch pins. So it's just to keep it steady while you're putting the tongue and groove on the ceiling. You don't have to penetrate the polyethylene vapor barrier. They're going in on an angle. You're going through whatever thickness of your pine tongue and groove and your 5/8. So you could have, in all due respect, a 1-inch pin. Okay? And that way, you've got a good, sound, flat tongue and groove ceiling ready for your finish. And I would suggest something like a Penetrol finish. Penetrol is made by the Flood Paint Company. And incidentally, Penetrol is a product that is a paint additive. So when you read it on the actual container, it'll say a paint additive, but it's great for going over top and giving you a finish on your pine in this particular case, or cedar, or whatever you may be using. So that's what I would be suggesting you do, and that's how I'd recommend you do it. That way you got a good, sealed, and solid looking finish on the ceiling. Just that easy.
A good question and a good answer.
Well, it's an answer that so many people want to go directly right on to the wood structure. You know, you don't really have any protection in the event if you ever did have, say, a fire. You want to at least buy some time. And
Right.
That tongue and groove over top of 5/8 drywall, fireboard drywall, fire guard is called, gives you some security.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question. Hi, Shell. In my basement, I have a sump pump, 1 kitchen drain, 2 bathroom drains, a toilet, and loads of pesky resistant drain flies. Dr. Google advises a variety of fixes. I tried vinegar, sugar, dish soap, traps. Nothing worked. A gel drain cleaner plus gallons of hot water. No good. As toxic, and that is as toxic as I wish to go. I have not found affordable boric acid yet and hope to avoid an exterminator and roto-rooter. Please advise. Thank you, Gwyneth.
Well, Gwyneth, it sounds to me as though you're looking for that silver bullet. Well, we do have a silver bullet, per se. And I've never went into this website, Dr. Doom, or Dr. Google.
Dr. Google.
Dr. Google. God, I never heard it that way. But I know a lot of people do use Google, but myself, I do it on experience. I do it on my past experiences. I do it on what's available, what I've tried, and what I've worked with. So I give it to you right word of mouth, folks, straight. And to the answer is Dr. Doom's residual spray. Just happen to have a can of it right here. And there you have right there. And I hope that shows up on the camera. But it's an actual yellow aerosol. It's got a yellow lid on it. It's manufactured in Alberta, in Edmonton, in fact. And when it says residual spray, it's a residual spray. When you spray it inside around the rim of the sump, or if you spray it in and around the carpet or around the baseboards, that is a residual. It stays there, and as soon as any of those pesky critters walk over it, like ants, or if you call them the drain flies, they don't fly no more, or they don't crawl no more. And they do take care of it, and it is one of those items that's very safe to use. So that's what I would be recommending. Kind of interesting, though, when Dr. Google doesn't know about Dr. Doom. But anyway, we do. We sell an awful lot of it for purposes of everything from ants to earwigs to drain flies and all the rest of it. So, folks, take it for what it's worth. It is just that easy when it comes to getting rid of those characters.
Yes, and we usually sell a lot of the Dr. Doom in the springtime, but we sell it year-round here at the,
Well, boric acid, she was actually indicating here that the boric acid, finding it, well, you find it at a drugstore. That's where you find boric acid.
And is it expensive?
Well, it's not something. First of all, she doesn't need it for what she's going to be doing. It's not for drain flies. It's for ants, actually, when you want to mix up that. But you're doing without a lot of the people like the exterminator and the roto-rooter. And the roto-rooter, first of all, I have no idea why you would want to indicate the roto-rooter. They're into the drain business and they're into the drain flies.
Right.
So it's a good question. Hey, there's the answer, and good luck on it.
Excellent. Next email. This one's about laminate floor cleaner and polish. For the last 6 years, I've been using cleaners like Bona, Woodpecker, but when I went to buy a cleaner this time, I was told that the cleaner is not a polish and that I should buy a Bona polish. I asked other suppliers and was told they had never heard of this practice. Thanks, Amin.
Well, it sounds as though you might have went to Dr. Google as well. But anyway, we're gonna deal with it this way. Where they sell laminate flooring, and I mean sell and know about laminate flooring, then that's where you're going to buy the maintenance items for that. Because if they don't have maintenance items like a cleaner and a polish or a sealer for any of your laminate floors, then they're really not a flooring dealer. And what I mean and what I characterize a dealer as is a person that runs a business that flooring is at the end of their name. So Joe's Flooring, Harry's Flooring, whatever the case may be. But they will have the maintenance items. Like, for example, Windsor Plywood. They sell a lot of flooring, and they have the maintenance items like your cleaners as well as your polishes or your sealers, because there's sealers for the seams, there's sealers for the surface. It all depends on the type of product you have. Is it a solid wood? Is it a plastic laminate? Is it a paper overlay? There's so many different types of flooring out there. In fact, ranging anywhere from 99 cents a square foot right up to could be up to $15 a square foot. So see, Morgan, it's not something that's just that easy.
A lot of different qualities out there.
A lot of different qualities, and there's a lot of different things that people do look for in your general merchant grocery store, in the maintenance or flooring items that you would purchase for cleaning and around bathrooms, etc. But you don't want to be buying just anything. It says, well, laminate is in the suggested items that you can clean with this particular whatever it is.
Right.
And it sounds to me like that Bona might be one of those type of items. I don't know. I've never heard Bona before. Could be an American item. It could be something that's available goodness knows where. But there's a lot of different products out there, and certainly we use it at home because we got laminate flooring. And but giving you a name brand, you could be out there looking for something that's not available in your area. So go to a flooring store, a specialty store that sells everything from vinyl flooring to carpet to laminate to ceramic, and that way you'll find it is just that easy.
Excellent. You are listening to episode 69 of the AskShell.com podcast. We are doing video this time, so give us some feedback. Let us know how you like the video.
You mean how we look?
How we look and how we like the video. We are answering emails from AskShell.com club members. So if you have a question, submit it to us. We'll get it on next week's podcast. Back to the emails. Hi, Shell. Thank you. This one is a follow-up from last week's podcast.
Okay, now we're going to have to give a little more information than relevant to that particular project last week, because there may be somebody today that may not have read last week.
I would suggest you go back and listen to episode 68, because that's where the question is, but it was on a flagstone question. So, hi, Shell, thank you. I should clarify a bit. The flagstone we are using has been cut and is in a tile form. It is a cut and semi-smooth finish, much like slate. The deck is 300 square foot, and I would like to add another beam if necessary, but I have learned that I would be well within load capabilities. The homeowners truly want this at all costs, and I am truly interested in trying a project like this. Money is no option for my clients, but I would prefer to not take up the existing plywood. I've used a paint product in the past for waterproofing, but am interested on your thoughts. And should I be using a mesh underneath? As for mortar and grout, I was going to use the mortar and grout also, then seal it after. I was going to use the mortar as the grout and then seal it after. What do you think? This is a special project for me. I have researched much about this, but would love your insight. Thank you again, Paul.
Well, Paul, first of all, let's get something straight here. You are dealing with something, and as you've indicated, this is your first time around. And first time around is an experience that you want to be very cautious, because doing it right the first time is going to mean, are you going to be doing it again? Because obviously, to do it right, you're going to have to take the advice that I'm going to recommend, but I'm sure you could talk to anyone in the industry, and you may find many, many different ways of doing it. But I just want you to be aware that when I do radio or when I do video, I like to do it based upon experiences, and experiences that are going to be good for you to understand, as well as the homeowner to understand the maintenance factor as well, and also what does in fact constitute the good, better, best when it comes to the surface. So flagstone really, when you use that term, flagstone is an irregular thickness as well as dimension. So your flagstone obviously sounds very much to me that it is a man-made product, which is fine, nothing wrong with it. But the thing is, when I hear flagstone, I don't hear man-made, because man-made products are in thickness, they are comparable to your ceramic tiles, your porcelain tiles, etc. So therefore, that's what we're dealing with. The most important thing you have to deal with here is the surface that you're going on top of. And I mean that so sincerely that you could really screw up if you don't do it right. And here is why. You have a deck. In fact, did I hear around 300 square feet? 300 square foot of deck. That deck could have any number of people on it at any one time. It could be 2 people, could be 4 people, could be 20 people, could be 30 people. The thing is, when you have that kind of load capacity, capable of carrying it or not, there may be deflection, especially if there's going to be any dancing or movement or chairs, all this sort of thing. Take your weight, put it on a chair, and the pounds that is now being stressed on the floor is equivalent to many, 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 many times your weight. So you've got to look at the most important thing, and that is the surface that you're going down on. Now, if the deck is in good shape, the joists that are certainly supporting the floor structure, you may or may not have to sister them, but you're going to have to check, first of all, building code, making sure that the ledger that they're tied into the wall of the home is correct. Do you have joist hangers involved? What is, how many times during the summer months, Morgan, do we hear or read where a deck collapsed?
Right.
And, you're talking about not only the weight of bodies, you're talking about the weight of the, in your case, the flagstone.
A barbecue,
a little bit of music, a little bit of thumping, a little bit of sitting and jumping even on the seat or sitting down harsh. All of these things are items you've got to take into consideration. So engineering, I don't know where or what you've done engineering-wise, but you have to take into all counts what is going to be on that deck. Because if you don't, you could be running into a problem. Now, having said all that, and you're satisfied with the finish of the plywood, the thickness of the plywood, I'm going to tell you want to have a minimum of 1 inch of plywood. Now, I don't mean if you've got 3/4 to add 1/4 inch. Never add anything less than a 1/2 inch. So there, if you got 3/4, you put a half, you're going to have 1 inch and 1/4. All right, and the reason for that, because 1/4 inch is no good whatsoever to put down before you put, say, something like ceramic tile or flagstone like you're putting down. So that is the membrane structure that you're going to be requiring now to go over top of with the product. And I know we mentioned the tile deck by Duradeck.
Yeah.
And tile deck is a product that I have experience in using. And I know the project that we done back about, I'm going to say 5 years ago or so, that it cost the homeowner thousands and thousands, and I mean thousands of dollars, to remove everything that had been done incorrectly because they did not use a membrane, structural, non-fracture membrane. And the Duradeck tile deck is a non-fracture, and it is a waterproofing deck membrane. So when you are in doubt, don't pout. Let Shell help you out. I'm telling you, the tile deck product by Duradeck is the way that I would be recommending you go. And then you go down on top of that with your adhesives, with your mortar, with the products that you're going to be setting your tiles with. It is just that easy when you do it right.
Right.
And it's very important that you do it right. It could be not only structurally satisfying, but it also could be structurally not so satisfying if you don't do it right, because every little pound of a chair, somebody sitting on a chair or dancing or load, if you get any deflection, that deflection is going to cause movement in your grouting, and you'll get cracking in your grouting. So you don't want to get into that. And plus the fact, if you do get a crack, you don't want it going through to something that's going to get into the plywood, end up with dry rot or rot down the road. That's why you have the deck material, and that's the Duradeck tile deck.
Right, and usually when you hear about those deck collapses, it's during a special occasion, a wedding or something like that, where you've got a lot of people over.
That's
and
right.
You can turn a good day into a bad day awful quick.
Yes.
Also, with the tile deck from Duradeck, we do have an interview with yourself and Kevin McMillan from Duradeck. Speaking of this, it is on our YouTube page, and it is on Duradeck's page on AskShell.com as well. So
and that's something that's very important for people to actually visually watch that.
Yes, so go check that out.
Yeah.
Next email. What are these heaters like, or which is the best heater to use for a suite on the 19th floor of a high-rise building for the living room, dining room, and kitchen? This place is so darn cold. They just put 2 electric heaters that are 27 inches long. They are useless in here. Thank you, Casper.
Well, Casper, that's not Casper the Ghost, is it?
I don't believe so.
Well, Casper, tongue-in-cheek, it is something that could be there ghostly, not working so well. But in any event, let me put it this way. There are a lot of condominiums out there that have adequate heating like you may have, but you don't have the offsetting assurance of the insulation value of the windows that you have, because if you're on the 19th floor?
Yes, it was the 19th
floor. You're getting up in the air, and getting up in the air, you're up into where there's a wind, you're up in where there could be a lot of cold, obviously, in the winter months, and a glass surface is not giving you anywhere near the insulation value of a wood-structured wall that has insulation up to 6 inches or more. Windows become more than a satisfying viewpoint, but also they can become very unsatisfactory when it comes to radiate cold into the room. So heavy drapery, insulated type of Venetian blinds, all these things are going to give you comfort. But to get into the furnaces or these ceramic heaters that you speak of, ceramic heaters are fine as long as you are not going to be using them for the primary heat, which I hope that wasn't your plan, because primary is what you have now, the baseboard. I would be more inclined to think that what you should do is have a electrically heated system, if it's an older building, going with something that is convection heat rather than your baseboard type of heat. Convection heat is like your baseboard, but better. It is a different looking, a different appearance. It's got digital thermostat controls. Keep in mind your thermostat controls should be up on the wall. In some cases, the thermostat controls are down on the unit themselves. And if that's the case, then keep in mind that's where the temperature is going to be rising and controlled to on off your baseboard, rather than your thermostat being up the wall, say at 54 inches high, where your comfort level is and where you're going to feel the cold, especially if you're not sitting down close to where your baseboard heaters are located. So you could look into Convectair, just as it sounds. In fact, I'll have Morgan put in print along the bottom of your, because this is video, and we'll put it along the bottom of your monitor. That way you can look it up and go directly to their website. But and that is by changing the quality of the product that you've got now versus that of the Convectair type of product, which is good, better, best, the best when it comes to convection. So it's really not so much these portable heaters. You don't want portable heaters. Portable heaters plugged into a 15 amp service. That's a duplex plug along the wall. Just as something that if you've got the number that you may need for that condominium or apartment, it could be this overloading the circuit, and you'll spend more time running back and forth to your electrical panel, resetting your breaker. So keep in mind, folks, good, better, best. Why worry about the rest when the good is better, the better is best? Go with the Convectair. and you have it right there on your screen. And go to their website, and then you can check with your local electrician. Or if you're in the greater Vancouver area, call us. We have electricians that use them, and they can do the conversion for you. So it is just that easy.
Excellent, Shell. I'm going to save this rim joist installation question for next week. Let's try out our Tony experiment this week.
Oh, yeah. We never actually mentioned that at the entry to this show about Tony Gioventu being up in the north. And I guess we did mention he's up in the north.
Yes.
But how we're going to take care of it.
He's busy this week, but we do have a question that has been submitted to him, and we do have his answer. So
that's right.
And I'm going to read the question, and we'll let you read Tony's answer, and we'll keep our condo smarts going here. If you have a question to submit to Tony, you can send it through askshell.com, and we will get it off to Tony, and we will get it in another podcast coming up.
That just so we don't leave one for next week. That rim joist is a pretty simple answer. So why don't we do it? Rim joist actually is your outside joist around the perimeter of your home, right? Your subfloor and your joist system, and the best way to insulate that is using spray foam. So
they said they heard that you could use heavy duty garbage bags.
But that's with a bad insulation inside.
You say spray foam.
Yeah, spray foam is the way to go. Heavy duty garbage bags, but putting a bad insulation in and shoving it into the cavity. You still got to seal around it with acoustical caulking. It's a pain in the neck. So go with the spray foam. Does it much better, much easier, much faster, and the best. So
excellent. Okay, Tony. Here's the question for Tony. Dear Tony, our Strata Council is entirely new. Our old one has served us well, but as a past chair of foundation and association, I have to say that I'm appalled at the lack of organization and resources our new council had to work with. The past president and treasurer came to the meeting to assist with the transition, but had no records or information to pass along. Our manager evidently shows up at meetings with information on the agenda and instructs council on their decisions with the pertinent documents for each meeting. We like our manager and don't want to change, but we also want to be proactive in the management of our property. How do we develop a better working model without creating a power struggle with our manager? Thank you, Margaret from Vancouver.
Well, Margaret, let me put it this way. Reading the answer of Tony, I'd like to add just a little bit of my own recipe in here as well. That one of the worst things today in an apartment building, townhouse development, condominium, one of the worst things is getting involved with a strata with too much time in your hands. Because you heard us talk earlier on this program about Dr. Google.
Yeah.
And you can't really afford to be a person to rely on Google because everything on Google is not correct. And believe you me, being involved in stratas, as I have been, I don't wish it on to anybody. And especially when you don't know anything about the home. Now, when I say you don't know anything, some people know what they read. Some people know from a past experience. Whatever that means, then you decide if you feel you've got the time, the effort, and the quality of information available to you. And that's what we'd like to make available here on our AskShell.com podcast. And that's why we always have this particular content from Tony Gioventu, who is the executive director of CHOA, which is the Canadian Homeowners Association. And that covers stratas of all types. So just be always on the defense, but please rely on your involvement being part of the AskShell.com club, because we do have the answers and we do have the best ones from the best people. So Tony gets back and he says, Dear Margaret, a clearly defined business relationship with your strata manager is the best place to start. Information and communication are the two most powerful assets and tools for any organization, especially strata corporations. Strata councils are responsible for the administration and operation of the strata, and that includes the administration of an annual budget, bylaw enforcement, contract negotiations, and supervision and maintenance and repair of the common property and the assets. While your strata may choose to delegate some of its authority for operations to the manager, you, the strata council, are still responsible and liable for all those duties and actions. For your strata council to be effective, you require information. How could you be expected to make a competent decision without the documents? A good business relationship with your strata manager is essential for your strata to operate effectively and efficiently, and for your strata council to be able to make decisions based on shared information. Every strata council member requires a current operation binder and dedicated online access to all of the records. That includes a copy of the Strata Property Act and regulations, your registered strata plan with the schedule of voting rights and unit entitlement, and easements or agreements that affect the operation and cost allocations of property, an updated version of the registered bylaws of the strata, a current copy of any rules of the strata, a copy of the strata insurance policy, minutes of the past council and general meetings that affect current business decisions, copies of the current budgets, and any 3/4 vote resolutions approved expenses for special projects, a copy of the most recent depreciation report, any engineering reports that have currently implied the strata, copies of any service agreements and contracts currently in effect for your strata. And in other words, in other records or documents that may affect your strata operations. Whether your council are enforcing bylaws, reviewing service agreements, approving purchases, or reviewing maintenance and operation plans, you will require reliable information on which to base your decisions. As new council, an operations binder will provide you with the basic tools necessary to administer your strata. Now, I'd like to close that out. That's Tony's answer, which is absolutely outlined to its perfection. But also, let me say, read it. You have to read it. Now, I know from experience people have started to read or never even opened the book. And if that's the case, then you're going to have to rely on the outcome of your strata council. Otherwise, when it comes to making any presentation, any information that you're going to provide, you'll have to make sure it goes and you abide by the rules of the strata. It is just that easy. So thank you very much, Tony. And I'm sure that doing justice and reading your answer, and for you folks, the listening audience and the viewing audience today on our first videoized podcast, that you got what you require from the information, the education, and the referral. Keep in mind, we do have that information available at our office.
Yes, thank you for submitting the question to Tony. If you have a question for Ask Shell episode 69, you can submit it to us. Go to askshell.com. That's ASKSHELL.com. Tell your neighbors, friends, and family too. And Shell, I guess we'll talk to you next week for episode 70.
Episode 70, and that is going to be a milestone, folks. And I'd like to say, as I always do, have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving. Eat lots of turkey. Don't forget the dressing. It's just that easy, folks. Love you all. Bye-bye for now.